And then I started working on the behaviors and the habits. And those took a long time. So the last year was before I had reached extinction, was all working on behaviors and habits and trying to, incorporate them with my use of alcohol. Like delay, wait, ask yourself why. Just who would ever think that those kind of things when you want something, you just go grab it and drink it or eat it. You don't think, well, why do I want this sandwich? Well, because I'm hungry. Well, is there something else, or oh, well, maybe I'm feeling kind of sad. Now I'm eating because I'm sad. Well, we do the same things with so many things. I was mindful.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I think it's something that we have to first become aware of. For me at least, and I've heard from others, it's like our drinking is done very mindlessly, and so it takes effort to even just become aware of what we're doing. Because, like you're saying, it's like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. I drink at 5 o'clock. It's just what I do, and that habit can still perpetuate even when on naltrexone and the Sinclair method. So with you, I hear a lot of people and see a lot of people in our program who've been on the method for 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, and they feel discouraged if they haven't reached that extinction point yet, or just that feeling of being free from the problems with alcohol. But I think your story is kind of a perfect example of, you can still have success with TSM even if it takes you longer to get there, because you reached extinction, it sounds like, after your first year on the method. There were still changes to be made, it sounds like. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, it was 2 years. So it was 2 years after starting TSM that I reached extinction. So in that 2 years was a lot of time, oh my gosh, reduction, AF days. I had actually had weeks where I had AF days and then just go, I still hadn't reached extinction. I mean, it was still in my lizard brain, alcohol was. It was still controlling me. It wasn't free from it.
Hmm.
And that's when I would call extinction is when you're not thinking about it. It isn't a part. I don't wake up thinking about alcohol. I don't, the champagne's over there, it's fine. It's gonna live there probably forever. I don't think about it, and so that was the extinguished part. But I remember, so it was so hard, even being on, TSM for a year and a half. Like, what am I gonna do with myself? That was hard. It was like Pavlov's dog, ring the bell, Brenda drinks, and that was happening, and I had to really look at that. Get off work. I'd take my pill at 3 o'clock, get off work at 4, drive home, drink, and it's like I knew there was my problem, r- this right there. And I had to get, I had to switch that up. That was what needed to be addressed. The pill was doing its job beautifully. It was doing its job. I couldn't ask more for a medication to do anything more than what it was doing. It was working its butt off, helping me out.
So how did you address that habit piece? Because you're spot on, and that's what people experience. They'll say, I don't really want to drink, but it's what I do every night. It's how I unwind after work. And you nailed it. That is the where the work comes in and where we have to engage the protocol, and why we always say, like, naltrexone and TSM are half of it, and the other half is how you're meeting the medication halfway and doing the behavior change and the mindfulness and the mindset. So just practically, like, how did you approach that? Like, if you have an example or two, I'm curious.
Oh, I got a few. So the best I could do, because I knew if I could switch it up at work, right after work, and some of this comes from my old AA thinking too. My sponsor would say, I worked at a very famous place, and when I get off work, she would say, right after work, I want you to walk over to that snack bar and get a pizza or a hot dog. You'll probably know what the place is. And I would go, okay. She goes, do that, and then go to a meeting. So that was my thinking. I was like, okay, how am I going to do it different? And I have to reward myself somehow. My reward was taco time. So I would get off work, drive down the hill towards taco time, not to my house. And that was the best I could do at that time was, and I was like, okay, the calories in, alcohol, a bottle of wine that's like, 800 calories, I bet, around there. And this, this meal at taco time, because then I was like, oh, the lizard came out and said, well, look what you're doing, fatty. Like, you be eating all this bad food. And so I wrestled with that too. But then I was like, okay, but this is better. I'll deal with this problem at taco time, and then I'll deal with the alcohol. But taco time is what, this is gonna save me from that alcohol, and it did. And so I would eat my meal, and then I would drive home, and because my belly was full and I kinda itched that scratch, by eating, then I was able to have an AF day, and that's how they started. And, I mean, I cut back my taco time, but I do still go once in a while. But, now I reward myself with an ice cream. Like, McDonald's has these little ice creams, and I did then too. I would, at night after the taco time run and come home, then I'd be like, now what do I do with myself? I don't want to drink. I'm not going to drink because I had my pill, I had my food, I'm full. Then what? And then I would start doing some walking. They
Mhm.
weren't very big walks. They were just small. I mean, I'm up to miles now, but they were small little walks. And then after the walk, sit down, okay, now what am I gonna do? Ham wringling, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And then it'd be like, okay, I'm gonna grab the dog and I'm gonna go to McDonald's and get a little ice cream. And I'd have that ice cream. And that was, by the end of the night, it was like, 8 o'clock, 9, like, okay, now I got it. Now I'm gonna be okay. I'm past the witching hour.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
That's how you do it little by slow. And then I started adding other things to it, other things I would do. And now, gosh, it's so, like, I don't even know why I was so preoccupied with what do I do. Now I have so many things that I choose not to do. Now I'm tired because I can't keep up with all the things I want to do. It's amazing, but alcohol robs you of so much, and it robbed me of time. Oh my gosh, all the time that I wasted. I mean, just not in my body and beating it up, but now I have life is rich. I wake up with joy, and I never had joy before. I didn't wake up with any joy. Like when we get done talking with you, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could go for a walk. I could do that, or I could go. There's so many things that I could do, and it's just endless.
Yeah, you said that so beautifully, Brenda, and I really appreciate that you brought up the fact of just how simple it was, like these little things you did. I mean, going to taco time for that reward. Um, it, I think that that's how the changes really happen when people are in that place like you were, stuck on the method, where it's like you see the medication working, but you've got this habit playing out that you can't break. And I just, my encouragement to people listening is that, it doesn't have to be any major challenge you go out and do. You don't have to go out and take up rock climbing and buy all the equipment and, make it difficult. It's like going to taco time, or, me too. I would go get ice cream at the local shop and I'd like walk downtown and make kind of like a nice little ritual out of it. And that would delay my drinking enough to see, okay, like maybe I can have an alcohol free day today, or maybe I can start a little bit later in the day. And I know for me before TSM, trying to do those little tips and tricks were they didn't work because my mind was still craving alcohol. So I'd do that thing and I'd be like, okay, great, I still want to drink, But with TSM, I find that if we can just do these things consistently and try new things, which it sounds like you did, paired with like the lack of desire or the reduced desire to drink, it's like a perfect combination. And we see ourselves get through it. At the end of the day, we're like, okay, I don't want to drink. That was a success. Like I can do that again. And it's these little steps and changes that don't have to be significant. It could be one little thing. I'm going to go to taco time and see how I feel after that. It sounds like that worked for you. And I love that you said too, it's like now you have all these options of things to do, where before it was like alcohol was the only thing that you were focusing on. And now it's like you see I wrote an article recently, like there was this whole new world of options opened up of like a million and one things I could do. But alcohol had become that sole focus. And I remember I shared this quote recently of Huberman, he like from Huberman's labs, he said, an addiction is a gradual narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. And I just thought that defined it so simply, that it's a gradual narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. So like you and I, having had the alcohol issues, it's like that was the only thing we were living for and going after every night and every day. And like that was the one and only prize. But as soon as you kind of break free from it, and particularly through TSM, you see, oh my gosh, like I have this whole world of things that bring me pleasure. I can go for a walk, I can get ice cream, I can watch a movie, I can hang out with my pets, I can take a nap, like, or, you know, anything and everything in between. So I think that's one of the things that was such a big eye opener for me as well. And it sounds like for you also, it's like there's so many things we can do and enjoy in this life. And alcohol, for me, I feel like it kind of lied to me, thinking it was the only thing that brought me joy and the only thing that brought me fun, when really it maybe did that for a few moments, but then it would be gone after that, and then I'd be paying for it with a hangover. And like you said, you know, you feel the true joy now, where before with alcohol, I think it would give me momentary happiness, but I honestly feel like it robbed me of that sincere joy, where it's just like that joy to be alive for no other reason than just like to be alive. Anything, yeah, what else would you like to say on that, or anything else you'd like to add?
Spot on. Alcohol lied to me. There's a book. It's by I forget his first name, Beck.
Oh
I
yeah.
have all these books. I mean, those was in my Audible for years, trying to, and I still listen to a lot of them. I listened to The Cure for Alcoholism over and over. Babylon Confidential. You know, I listened to. I got a huge library of them, and they've all helped. And yeah, but alcohol did it lied. You know, it's I think you and I've used, you know, and it's you and I've talked about this a long time ago, was that alcohol was like a really toxic relationship with great sex. And it's not sustainable. You can't just have that. I know it's just it's not going to work, you know, that's and it, but it lied. It was alluring, and now it's lost its appeal altogether. But no, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, you see it for what it is. You're like, oh, okay, you're not that cool after all. When
Yeah,
I'm not getting the endorphin reward, I don't like how you taste, I don't like how you feel.
I don't like anything about it. Especially now that I haven't drank in so long, I can smell it really like it. It's so weird. Like the hand sanitizer everyone used through COVID, I can smell when I smell that and smell beer smell on someone's breath. They smell a little bit similar, like oh, and it's weird that I'd never would have smelled that before or
Yeah,
cared or thought about it. Yeah,
same.
it definitely lied to me. It
Yeah.
lies to a lot of us. I don't even know anymore what alcohol is even good for. I mean, I can't even think of a reason it is good for anything. You know, I did have some really good times. Like, you know, we had some really good times being alcohol. We really did. You know, in the beginning, like that bad relationship.
Mhm.
Uh, it was fun romancing in the beginning, but then yeah, it's a good relationship.
Yeah, yeah.